Undercover CEO witnesses waitress help his autistic daughter eat. The next morning, he changed her life forever. The dinner rush at Harbor House Grill was in full chaos when the moment that would rewrite Rachel Carter's future quietly unfolded between a trembling child and a worn-out waitress who had long ago buried her own dreams. The sharp crack of ceramic against tile sliced through the hum of conversation as a plate shattered near the kitchen doors. "I'm so sorry," Rachel breathed, already crouching to gather the fragments before someone stepped on them, her cheeks burning under the weight of a familiar glare. From across the dining room, manager Doug Hamley folded his thick arms across his chest. "That's coming out of your paycheck, Carter," he barked loud enough for nearby customers to hear. "You'd think after 5 years you could carry a plate." A few diners exchanged uncomfortable glances, but most returned to their meals, unwilling to intervene. Rachel murmured another apology and carried the shards to the trash, her hands steady despite the humiliation. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not when her father's dialysis appointments were scheduled 3 times a week. Not when the insurance deductible reset in January. Not when the pharmacy had already called twice about an overdue balance. At 28, Rachel had expected to be finishing her final clinical rotation at Appalachian State's nursing program, specializing in pediatric developmental care. Professors once described her as exceptionally intuitive with children, especially those who struggled to communicate. But intuition didn't pay hospital bills, and when her father's kidneys failed 2 years ago, she withdrew without ceremony, trading textbooks for serving trays. "Table 16 needs refills," Doug snapped as she passed. "And move faster. We're not running a charity." Rachel nodded and pushed forward, balancing glasses along her forearm. By 7:30 the restaurant was packed, orders stacking up, cooks shouting over the grill, the air thick with garlic butter and impatience. That was when she noticed them. A sharply dressed man in a navy suit seated stiffly across from a small blonde girl who appeared no older than 9. The other servers hesitated to approach. Rachel saw why. The girl's hands were pressed tightly over her ears, her eyes squeezed shut against the noise, her body rocking almost imperceptibly. The father looked composed, but the strain in his posture betrayed exhaustion. Rachel didn't hesitate. She approached with a gentle smile, lowering her voice instinctively. "Hi there. I'm Rachel. I'll be taking care of you tonight." The man offered a polite nod. "Nathaniel Brooks. And this is my daughter, Lily." Lily did not look up. Rachel noticed the flinch when a tray clattered nearby. Sensory overload. She recognized immediately. "It's a little loud tonight," Rachel said softly. "We have a quieter booth near the windows if that would help." Nathaniel blinked, surprised. "Yes, that would help very much." Within minutes Rachel had relocated them, subtly dimmed the hanging light above their table, and brought Lily a lemonade with a flexible straw. She placed a folded napkin beneath the glass to keep it from scraping loudly when moved. Small things. Intentional things. When she returned to take their order, she addressed Lily directly, but without pressure. "Our mac and cheese is my favorite. Extra creamy. But the chicken strips are good too." Lily's eyes flickered briefly toward the picture menu. "Mac and cheese," she whispered, almost inaudibly. Nathaniel inhaled sharply at the sound of her voice. When the food arrived, the tension returned. Lily's right hand trembled as she tried to lift the fork. The pasta slipped, falling back to the plate. Her breathing quickened. "Sweetheart, try again," Nathaniel encouraged gently, though helplessness crept into his tone. Rachel saw the spiral beginning, the frustration, the shame, the gathering. Panic. Without asking for attention, she pulled up a chair. "Lily," she said calmly, "can I show you something?" The girl hesitated but didn't refuse. Rachel demonstrated a modified grip, stabilizing the utensil against her palm and guiding the motion slowly. "Sometimes our hands just need a different plan," she explained conversationally. "That doesn't mean they can't do it." Lily tried again. The fork wobbled. Rachel steadied her wrist lightly, then released. The bite reached her mouth. Lily blinked, surprised. Nathaniel went completely still. Another bite followed. Then another. And then, slowly, Lily smiled, small but radiant. A sound escaped her, almost a laugh. Across the room, Doug frowned, clearly irritated that Rachel had spent more than 5 minutes at one table. But Rachel stayed long enough to ensure Lily could repeat the motion independently. "You've got it," she said warmly. "See? Just needed a new approach." Nathaniel's eyes met Rachel's, something profound shifting in his expression. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You have no idea." Rachel simply nodded, unaware that the man watching her with such careful intensity wasn't just another customer. Nathaniel Brooks was the founder and CEO of Brooks Hospitality Group, and Harbor House Grill was one of several restaurants he had acquired 6 months earlier after noticing declining revenue reports. He had arrived that night unannounced to observe operations firsthand. What he hadn't expected to witness was a manager publicly humiliating staff, tip discrepancies already flagged in financial audits, and a waitress demonstrating more leadership, compassion, and skill in 10 minutes than his management team had shown all year. As the meal concluded, Lily spoke again. More than she had in months, Nathaniel knew. She described her sketchbook. She asked Rachel what nurses did at hospitals. Rachel answered with gentle clarity, careful not to reveal how much she missed that world. When she brought the check, Nathaniel handed her his card without comment. She thanked them both, wishing Lily a quiet goodnight. As they exited, Nathaniel paused at the door and looked back at Rachel. Really looked at her, as if committing something to memory. Rachel returned to her section, unaware that before sunrise the next morning, an investigation would begin, a manager would lose his job, and a letter embossed with Brooks' hospitality seal would arrive at her apartment door, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness isn't just noticed. Sometimes, it's witnessed by the one person with the power to change everything. The next morning, just as Rachel Carter finished setting out her father's medication, a firm knock sounded at her apartment door. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened it, a courier handed her a cream-colored envelope stamped with a navy logo, Brooks Hospitality Group. Confused, she signed for it and stepped back inside. The name on the enclosed business card made her heart stutter. *** Nathaniel Brooks, founder and CEO ***. CEO, of course. The letter was brief but direct. **Ms. Carter, last night I observed something exceptional. I would appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about your employment and your future. A car will arrive at 9:30 a.m. The decision is yours. My daughter hopes you'll come. Rachel read it twice, pulse racing. She had suspected he was important, but not this important. After reassuring her father she'd return quickly, she changed into her old nursing school blazer and stepped into the black SUV waiting outside. The ride to uptown Charlotte passed in a blur of nerves and unanswered questions. Inside a sleek high-rise office overlooking the city, Nathaniel greeted her calmly. "Thank you for coming, Miss Carter," he said, motioning for her to sit. He wasted no time. "I visited Harbor House Grill last night because of financial concerns. After observing management and reviewing the books, I terminated Doug Hanley this morning." Rachel's breath caught. Terminated? He was manipulating tip pools and cutting shifts unfairly, including yours. A mix of shock and vindication washed over her. She hadn't imagined the missing money or the reduced hours. Nathaniel slid a folder across the desk. "That's being corrected immediately. You'll receive back pay." Rachel stared at the numbers, overwhelmed. Then his tone softened. "More importantly, I watched how you treated my daughter." He paused. "Lily hasn't willingly engaged with a stranger in almost a year. Last night, she trusted you." Rachel swallowed. She just needed patience. She needed understanding, he corrected gently. "Something you provided instinctively." He opened another folder. "I also reviewed your background. Nursing student. Pediatric focus. Academic honors." Rachel stiffened. "I left when my dad got sick." "I know," he said evenly. "Which is why I'm offering you options." He outlined them clearly. A promotion to general manager with full benefits for her father, a corporate role helping develop inclusive service training, or financial sponsorship to return to nursing school, tuition covered. Rachel felt dizzy. "Why?" she asked quietly. Nathaniel held her gaze. "Because talent shouldn't disappear, because life becomes difficult. And because what you did last night was professional excellence, not charity." A soft knock interrupted them. Lily stepped inside, holding a folded piece of paper. She walked carefully to Rachel and handed it to her. It was a drawing of the three of them at a restaurant booth. Underneath, in careful handwriting, "You didn't rush me." Rachel's vision blurred. Nathaniel's voice lowered. "There are no strings attached, Miss Carter. This is about investing in someone who deserves it." For the first time in years, Rachel felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Hope. 1 year later, Rachel Carter stood beneath bright hospital lights wearing a white coat with her name stitched neatly over the pocket. Rachel Carter, RN. The letters still felt unreal. After long nights of study, early clinical rotations, and balancing work with caring for her father, whose treatments were now fully covered under comprehensive insurance, she had returned to nursing school and graduated with honors. She hadn't chosen the easy path. She had chosen the one that felt true. Brooks Hospitality had followed through on every promise. Harbor House Grill implemented inclusive dining policies across all locations, training staff on sensory awareness, adaptive tools, and respectful communication. What began as one quiet booth in a noisy restaurant had grown into a company-wide standard. Rachel consulted part-time while finishing school, ensuring the program remained rooted in dignity rather than publicity. Nathaniel never turned it into a marketing spectacle. It was never about headlines. And Lily had grown in ways no one could measure on paper. She still preferred quieter corners and soft lighting, but she now ordered her own meals. She carried noise-canceling headphones without shame. She even corrected a waiter once, politely explaining that she needed a fork with a thicker grip. The first time she did it, she glanced at Rachel afterward, pride shining in her eyes. On a mild spring afternoon, Rachel attended the opening of the Lily Brooks Center for Inclusive Development, a therapy and learning facility funded by Nathaniel, but designed with input from specialists and from Lily herself. Rachel hadn't been given a title out of obligation. She had earned her seat at the table as a pediatric nurse consultant. During the ribbon cutting, Lily stepped up to the microphone. Her voice was steady. "Miss Rachel showed me I wasn't bad at eating," she said. "I just needed a different way." The room grew quiet. "Now we're going to help other kids find their different way too." Rachel felt tears rise, but they weren't the desperate tears from the Harbor House parking lot a year ago. These were different, steady, grateful. Later that evening, the three of them shared dinner. This time in a calm, thoughtfully designed dining space built for children like Lily. No rush, no humiliation, no fear of broken plates or cut shifts. Rachel realized something then. Nathaniel hadn't rescued her. He had recognized her, and she had done the rest. Sometimes a life isn't changed by grand gestures. Sometimes it turns on a quiet decision, to sit down, to be patient, to care when no one is watching. And sometimes, when someone important is watching, that small act becomes the beginning of everything.